So I'm going to do a God Is series here for the next few weeks. God is. God is, I am. It was Emily Cady in Lessons in Truth that I first learned that God is omnipresence, omniscience, omnipotence. You know, God is presence itself. God is power itself. God is knowledge itself. God is. And so therefore to get away from the personality and the personification of God so that I can start using it, using what God is in my mental state, in my physical state, in my spiritual state, to begin to use it practically. Because Unity School was originally called Unity School for Practical Christianity. And when I found that out, I was on board. I thought, because I need to know how to practice this, because otherwise it's kind of a nasty idealism that is filled with judgment. And I didn't like Christians very much because they didn't seem to like me. You don't like me, I don't like you. And so I didn't understand it, and it frightened me. And I really don't want to be frightened when I go to church, do you? No. You know, I don't want to be scared into obeying God. And I don't want to be scared and judged by the people that I want to worship beside, that I want to celebrate myself and my God self alongside. That's why I when I came to Unity and heard, "You're good, Shawn. You can't not be good." When I walked out of that service, I was so thrilled. Now, I had suspected I might be good, despite my behaviors, but it was nice to have it confirmed from the pulpit, from a minister I trusted. I granted it was the first time I'd ever met him, so it was safe at that point to trust him, but it seemed like good news. And I took it, and I've gone with that ever since. And that became my ministry. The word good, I remember somebody left here years ago. I don't need to hear I'm good anymore. And I thought, well, maybe you do. And so to begin to look at this practically, you know, so that we may apply it practically instead of practically applying it. To embrace the whole concept. And so this week I got his presence. Actually, got his omnipresence. Presence itself. But I put presence because I wanted us to start thinking in terms of, here I am, so is God. 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 Here as I am. There's no place I can be that God is not as spirit, as principle, not as a person watching me, but principle itself, law itself, joy itself, love itself. Rather than God is loving me, God is love. And because God is love, I am free to love. I am free to be loving. Doesn't mean I have to be nice. It means I have to become aware of my lovingness. Chips are coming up. And so to become aware of that, to really apply it to every aspect of our lives, and then we don't have to go through life afraid or ashamed or embarrassed to be us. And over the years, I have done a lot of things in spite of shame, in spite of embarrassment, in spite of my childhood, in spite of things, you know, because we didn't grow up with a lot of money, and we didn't go, and I should not use that as an excuse to not be wealthy. It's not an excuse to steal either, but, you know, I should not have to be embarrassed in front of anybody because I don't have a formal education. I did not do well with formal education. I needed to learn through life. And it was the only way. I didn't have enough discipline. I had a lot of ADD. And so I left high school twice in 10th grade. 2 years in a row I left in 10th grade. I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't focus enough anymore. I went and took my test. I was well read. Clearly I'm not, there's no aptitude about me that can't learn. I just couldn't focus. So 2 years in a row, I left the 1 year. And I went back the next year, and I stayed half the year, and I left again. Because for me, I had to go learn, apparently, in bars and other places. And I continued to read, and I took my test and passed it right away. So I used to think I should be embarrassed about that. And I don't talk about it a lot. I don't use it as my defense. I'm just letting you in that my story is my story. And I have a pretty amazing life. Not in spite of my story, but it turns out because of my story. My story has led me to all sorts of wonderful things. So you see, I don't have to apologize for my past. I don't have to apologize, well, I was abused. I don't have to apologize for that or use it as an excuse for why I can't keep moving forward. And that's the gift that Unity gave me, is you are good. And your life that you've had, that's your good. Go alchemize it, Shawn. If you don't know what alchemization is, it's turning something valueless into something very valuable. And I turned a dark past into something very valuable in a life of service. And not drudgery, but a life of service. And so it's only, I'm 25 years into my healing, and I'm just now learning more empathy. I'm learning, rather than it's a hard fact, well, you just do it this way and then you'll be fine. Just think these thoughts, just pray this way and then you'll be fine. And for a long time I thought it was, because certain things came easy to me when it came to this life. And I couldn't get enough schooling in this. My goodness, I just relished every class I took of the spiritual classes, the New Thought classes. I didn't even look for the longest time about how many credits I needed to become a licensed Unity teacher. I walked in there in February 1997, or January 1997. Oh, yeah, January. And I took Myrtle Fillmore's How to Let God Help You class. And the teacher said it was going to be $15 to take it for credit towards becoming a licensed Unity teacher. I didn't know what a licensed Unity teacher was. I'd never heard such a term in my life. I'd only been at Unity for 3 weeks. So I didn't know about these things. But I took this class, and as many of you know, my mother died 3 days later by surprise. So I had to go home. I missed the second class. My mother's stupid, no. I went home. I was at home, and I had all the tools for my mother's funeral that I got in that first class. That in a few years in 12 steps. But I came back, and I was very sad about my mother, but I wasn't sorry about my mother. And it was not a shame that she had left. I got it. She had made her transition, which is very different than she died and left me. She made her transition from here to here. And so, but the way I shared about it, people were interested in that. And I thought, oh, I'm sharing in a way that this New Thought philosophy looks at it. So I dug in even more. I still wouldn't look for a long time on how many credits I needed. And I was taking about 3 classes a week at the church in the city. I had 3 very different teachers. One teacher, you didn't even need the book. He was so clear about everything. You didn't even have to read the book on the topic if you didn't want to. The second teacher was hardcore. Reverend Mary Alice Brown. She was 77 years old, and she would run up and down steps just to show you that she could. And she would come in and she would start class. I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, my body shows it. Say it. Oh, she's hardcore. I'm alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic. Say it. And one day I thought, why is she so angry? And then I realized one day, oh, she's passionate. She's passionate about these teachings, because I got to know her. There was a couple of months into her class. It was she was teaching Lessons in Truth, and I remember I was having a very sad day that day about my mother, just a lot of emotions, and I thought, if she yells at me today, I'm going to walk out. And she didn't yell at anybody that day, and her prayer was answered. Isn't it funny how we get what we need on the days that we need it? Now, granted, everyone else is affected by my needs as well, but I just know that I couldn't take being yelled at that day, and she didn't. And then I went upstairs afterward and cried to the minister because I just had an emotional day. And I was okay with that. I wasn't embarrassed to have an emotional day. I wasn't ashamed of it. I just needed a good cry with somebody I trusted. So I did that with this guy, and then I could continue to study. Let's try that affirmation for a moment. It says, I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, and my body shows it. Let's say that together. I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, and my body shows it. Now let's say it with more enthusiasm. I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, and my body shows it. Now, they do say 3 times as a charm, so let's do it one more time. I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, and my body shows it. And there we go. You take that in. You use that. You use that in your body so that you know there's things going on inside your body that you don't know what's happening. But now you can just know it. And that's what's important to me in all this stuff is we have to know that it's happening. We don't have to know what's happening. What we've done in that affirmation is to open our minds to the experience, not to receiving, because we already have it, but to the experience of health and well-being. To the experience that, oh, my body's alive, alert, awake. I didn't know that. Joyous and enthusiastic about life. Holy smokes, my body knows it, my body shows it. It's like, oh, there's stuff going on here. There's stuff moving through the cells. There's stuff moving through the bloodstream. There's stuff moving through all the organs and the tissues and the fiber. Isn't that lovely? And I don't have to concern myself with which direction it's moving or how it's happening. I can just know with faith that it is. And that is, then I don't have to be concerned today. I don't have to express, I hope the blood's still flowing in my system. Oh, I hope there's still oxygen in my system. I hope I'm well. No, I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, my body shows it. And the more I declare it, the more I begin to understand what those statements mean. And the more I begin to understand, oh, there's more going on here than meets the eye. There's more going on here than meets the doctor's eye. So in this omnipresence, I'm going to read a couple of things to you here. It says, omnipresence applies to God as the universal spirit of good. It means all or everywhere present, and in its completeness includes both omniscience and omnipotence. We'll do omniscience another week. Omnipresence designates the infinite, eternal, immutable, all-pervading substance that is the source, cause, and sustenance of all being in its absolute wholeness or holiness. Omnipresence is the substance idea, the body of God, i.e. the embodiment of all good. Omnipresence is the passive phrase, the mother aspect of spirit. It embraces all being in the absolute and holds within it all intelligence, life, purity, power, love, and joy. It is stronger than any need, greater than any circumstance, more powerful than any personality. In it are order and judgment and all things in their right relation. Are you paying attention to this? Are you noticing all the words that it says? Because I'm going to read it again. It embraces all being in the absolute and holds within it all intelligence, life, purity, power, love, and joy. And I love this. It is stronger than any need. So think about any need you have right now and know that this omnipresence is stronger than anything you need. Meaning you have something that is stronger than anything you need, more powerful. Greater than any circumstance. Any circumstance you have, this omnipresence is greater than that. And all the stuff you think is a problem pales in comparison to the good that we already have. And it's more powerful than any personality. We're clear on this. It's more powerful than any personality in the news, on television, on your Facebook pages, and it's more powerful than your own personality. In it are order and judgment and all things in their right relation. Omnipresence includes the activity of the Holy Spirit. Ever seeking to have the righteousness of God consciousness move through as the expresser of divine ideas. It is the all-pervading good in which we live and move and have our being. In this all-satisfying presence, there can be no loneliness, no lack, no separation, no suffering. Emily Cady asks the question, why is it necessary that we realize omnipresence? She says it is necessary that we realize omnipresence with the presence of God within and without, because in no other way can we bring forth or manifest the good that is ours by divine inheritance. Omnipresence means God is the one and only presence of absolute good. And this good comprises all of the divine ideas that are our inheritance. She advises us. Practice thinking and realizing omnipresence. That is, practice realizing that all good that you desire is here now, all present. It is not apart from you, and its coming to you does not require time. It's all now, and it's not separate. It's not something we have to go out and get. It's something we have. And these are the saving grace to me of these teachings. When I start to forget, or when I start to have despair, and I remember this stuff, it's like, oh, I don't have to worry. Oh, I don't have to be concerned. I have to get still. I have to be still and know. That's what I need. This is saying, in effect, that we are to realize God is the only presence of life, of love, of abundance, or of harmony, of peace, and so forth. Until we do realize this, we are likely to think that any limitation, such as sickness, inharmony, or failure, has reality. How many of us think, oh, we got a cold, we got this, we got that, there's a diagnosis, that's real? Shawn, I've had more people say, Shawn, this is nice up here. But in the real world, a lot of people have said that to me over the years. And it's like, no, this is the real world. That's the temporary. That will change. I promise that's changed. Look at your history. That, quote, real world has changed over and over and over again. The only thing that seems to last is spirit. The only thing that seems to last is principle. And if I apply it consciously, I see differently, and I see with understanding. Omnipresence, God is mind. The one mind contains all, and all ideas exist in the mind. God is everywhere present. There is no place where God is not. God is in all, through all, and around all. In the very simplest acts of everyday living, we find that we need to realize oneness. Identify with what we are doing. Otherwise, we become disorganized and do not accomplish. The musician needs to have a sense of oneness with music. The mathematician must have unity in his mind with the principles of mathematics he may be working with. By realizing that we are one with God's nature of life, love, power, strength, faith, peace, and so on, we are making conscious identification with the source of the good we wish to see, that we wish to see manifest in mind, body, and affairs. When we accept the truth that God's nature is omnipresent, we no longer see any false belief or appearance as having power enough to prevent God's good coming into manifestation. I'm going to read a quick Bible passage for you from Psalms, which I like. It's Psalms 139. I think it's verse 10. I could be wrong. Oh, verse 7. Starts with, "Whither shall I go from thy spirit? Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend to heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in Sheol, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there thy hand shall lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. I say, let only darkness cover me, and the light about me be night. Even the darkness is not too dark to thee. The night is bright as day, for darkness is as light with thee. But this writer is saying there's nowhere I can go that my source isn't. There is no place, no situation, no thinking that if I reach out wanting to know the truth, that I can't know the truth. There is no situation, no state of mind that without a single realization of my oneness, of the presence within and without, it can always be accessed if I want it. Now, if I'm trying to get a hold of that spirit, that source, to maintain my misery, it will not really assist me in that. You know, because we often reach out, God, make this different. No, not my thinking. Make the circumstance different. I still want to maintain my miserable thinking, but I want the circumstance to be easier. I still want to get together to talk about lack and sickness and misery and who all is betraying me, but I still want health, and I want money, and I want somebody who loves me unconditionally, and I want a subway car to always be coming into the station when I get there, and I want the traffic to clear, but I still want to complain about traffic. I want the president to be different, and I want the last president to be different, and I want the one before that to be different, and I want the one before that to be different, and I want my parents to be different, but I still want to complain about them. And I want my body to be different, but I still want to wish my body were different. I want hair, but I don't want to have to fuss with it. I want all of it. I want my joy, and I want my misery. And so what we often do in these circumstances is we just seek a way to make our misery more manageable. So that we don't, we can have fun with it, but we don't have to want to kill ourselves. And so to look at this and say, well, I think it's time for a change. I think it's a time for a change in my thinking. I want to surrender to the possibility as a reality that there is no lack of God, there is no lack of love, there is no lack of wisdom or understanding, and there is an abundance of God. There is an abundance of love. There is an abundance of spirit. There is an abundance of peace. There is an abundance of joy. There is an abundance of fun. There is an abundance of understanding. It's not just that there is no lack of, there is also an abundance of the good. And in exchange, I will give over my misery. It has served me long enough, and my misery can't serve me any longer. I will give over my doubt. It has served me long enough. It can't serve me anymore. See, I had no other tools, so I needed that misery, I needed that doubt, I needed that frustration and whatever. And now I don't need it anymore. A new thought has been presented to me. A new understanding has been presented to me. I'm going to work with a mentor of mine today to surrender some thinking that I have accumulated, thinking it would serve me once again, even though I had let that thinking go years ago. I welcomed it back. And now it's the time to surrender and to have reach out to someone to help me with that I trust, and so that I can more fully commit to the God of my understanding, to the God I just read about today, that I could give up my misery rather than manage it. What do you think? Do you think you would even consider relinquishing your misery rather than trying to find a way to manage it? Rather than to think our misery must be managed on the highway, but that we could have no misery whatever. that there is no cause from Spirit for any being to be miserable, for any being to be unhappy, for any being to live in lack, for any being to live in sickness, for any being to live as less than the promises of God, the good of God, the light of God, the love of God. And we don't need another human being to change for us to do that. We don't need anyone else in our life to change in order to do that. What is likely is, as we shift, all beings around us will shift. As we take hold of love, as we take hold of joy, as we take hold of knowledge and understanding, and let the very presence of God reside in our mind, in our bodies, in our lives, everything will have to change. Now I know some things unlike the change will come up, only to be seen and released. But today, let's take on the reality. God is presence. God is presence, and therefore cannot not be present. We are loved with an everlasting love. That's the promise. Otherwise, why would we come up these steps? If we didn't believe these promises, if we didn't believe these things as a reality, there's no reason to shift in any way. I know that we believe. I know you out there in TV land. Believe, YouTube land. Believe, or you wouldn't be here now. So let's get on board with our beliefs by simply saying, thank you, God. Here I go.